Welcome, ladies, to this month's skills training on canoe techniques. We're super excited to have you here. I just wanted to we'll first start out with canoe orientation. So the front of our canoe, this is our handy dandy 16-footer. So the front of the boat is called the bow, and the back of the boat is called the stern. That's important, but that's not critical, I suppose. Some other important things to need to know is with a canoe, it's a little bit different than like a kayak. Some kayaks are closed, so you have a skirt. So this is an open system. There's no bailing or anything like that. So once water gets in the canoe, like you can totally get swamped. So there's some important things that we need to know about if your canoe gets swamped. And I like to talk about this in the first part, just because I always feel like safety is the biggest thing before we go over techniques. So say like you're paddling along and you're getting some water in your boat. Hopefully it's because like you hit some rapids or something, you don't have like a slow leak in your boat. So if you're getting a slow leak or if you have a little bit of water, I usually just recommend having a bailing bucket. This is just one of our pictures, but always have one of these in any canoe. That way you can just scoop out the water anytime you have any issues or something like that. So this is a critical piece of gear. And then if you got, for some reason, your canoe got swamped or it flipped upside down in the river, we're going to talk a little bit about how to get that canoe to shore and get it emptied out with water. So first thing we want to do is if our canoe, I don't know if you're in some crazy rapids or something like that, and you fall out and then your canoe, hopefully, like if you just fall out, and your canoe is just floating along and looks good and still seaworthy. If you have a partner, you can do the same thing we do with rafting, where you come up to the boat and we let your legs float up as high as you can, and they'll grab you by the top of your jacket and pull you in. And you can kind of help by doing that, kicking a little bit. If you're by yourself, you want to get to the middle, which is the most stable part of the canoe. And we're going to do the same thing where we grab on the side, get our legs high up in the water. And we're going to reach over as far as we can and kind of push ourselves in. And then try and stay low and wide as you can. And then we're back inside. Now, worst case scenario, I have fallen out of the boat and the the canoe has flipped. So we'll kind of go down. All righty. So in this situation, it's really hard unless you have a really light canoe or another canoeing partner that can help you flip it up in the river. Usually we just take the kayak back or take the canoe and float it to shore. That's probably pretty much the best way you're gonna be able to get the water out of the canoe. So they float generally. And so we'll just wanna kick it, hold on to it and kick it back to shore. Now, when we get to shore, it's going to be so heavy. It's going to have water in some part in the front of the back. It's an open system. So essentially most of the water should come out pretty easily when you pull it on shore. But we'll show you kind of our techniques that we use to get as much water out as fast as possible. All right. So partner, if you want to come out. So one of you grabs the front, one grabs the back. Lift it up. All right. And I'll go high, and then he goes high, and then we go side to side. All right, and then we'll turn it over this way, nice and gently. Cool. Thanks, babe. All right. And at that point, you should have a lot of the water out, and you should be good to go. So that's as far as our safety stuff. I do suggest also having a rescue throw bag. You can rent those from any rafting, like BYU, outdoor UVU, but it's a little bag that has a rope in it that you can throw, and you can use that to throw out to people or other canoes to pull them back into the boat. So I always like to have that and have it connected onto the canoe. I'm gonna just show you some paddling techniques as well. Of course, we didn't know our neighbors would start mowing their lawn in the middle of our demonstration. All right, so this is a paddle. It has 3 parts. We have the handle, the shaft, and the blade. So a normal canoeing for, we're gonna teach you just 4 techniques on canoe paddling. There's a whole bunch more, some really cool stuff out there, ways of manipulating your boat and stuff like that as well. But we'll just stick to the 4 paddling techniques. So first technique is the forward paddle. So you want to just have your hand flat and grip that palm, put your palm on the handle there. Then your other hand is kind of low down on the shaft. And what we're going to do is with paddling, there's a couple techniques that I recommend. One of them is you have a straight arm, just straight arm, but you also combine that with using your core. And that will help, like the straight arm helps you use your bones. And then when you're using your torso, it also helps use your core. So that way your muscles aren't getting so exhausted. So when I go to do a forward paddle, a forward stroke, I'm going to go in, put my paddle in. My lower arm is more straight. And I'm going to be using my shoulder and my core to make that upper arm straight. Does that make sense? So lower arm straight, upper arm straight, but I'm also using my full core, like engaging your full core. And that gives you a lot of power. So this is just the forward stroke. You dip the paddle in, pull it back, lift out, forward stroke. Reverse stroke or the back stroke is the same, just opposite. We're going to be putting our blade in the water. And we go back. Blade. See how if you do a little twist, it helps you engage as well. So that's your reverse or your back stroke. Next stroke is the draw stroke. The draw stroke is a way to pull your canoe sideways. Like if you're coming onto a shore and you want to kind of hug into that shore to get out, or for some reason you just want to move the whole boat sideways. What you do is you take your paddle and make sure your blade is perpendicular to your boat. And we put it in and we bring it towards us. So reach out and bring that towards you. That's your draw stroke. And then our last stroke we want to teach is the cross. Sorry. Is the draw stroke. So the draw stroke, we're going to dip the paddle in, your blade in. We do a forward paddle. And then at the last, you twist your thumb down and bring that blade in right next to the canoe. So it goes like this, in here. And then, so this last little bit, you can control and bring that canoe in a lot closer, move it a little bit. You almost use that last little bit of the J stroke as a rudder. And it can manipulate the canoe around quite a bit. I also wanted to include the cross draw stroke. This is a fun little bonus stroke if you want to try it. It's usually meant for the front paddler or if you're the only paddler in the boat. And what you do is you get up a little higher. I've got my knees in the canoe. And then I'm going to be putting my paddle in like straight up and down. And I bring the water towards me like this. That's a way to get the boat to maneuver a lot easier instead of doing a full forward stroke or any corrections. You can just get up and you can kind of move that a little bit closer. So that's a cross draw stroke. So those are your 4, well, if you count the backstroke, 5 strokes to kind of help you in your canoeing. Obviously, if any of you guys have tried to canoe with somebody, maybe a spouse or a friend, it can be a veritable nightmare. So here are some tips to keep your relationships intact after canoeing. One is notice that both of you are going to be doing, likely 2 people are not going to be the same strength at all. And so they're going to have one person that's paddling this way, maybe your weaker person, and then another person on the right side stronger. And so the boat's going to go here instead of staying straight. So you just want to be aware of each other's strengths and have, maybe your stronger paddler ease up a little bit. So you both have nice, even strokes. You want to compare, have pretty even strokes together as well. So you kind of maintain that fluid motion. Also, we like to have the person in the front sometimes be your power. So they're going to just be paddling as much as they can on one side. And when they get tired, then they'll switch sides and paddle a lot on the other side. And then the person in the back is the compensator or the steerer. And what they'll do is they'll be paddling opposite on the other side in the back. But they are also using their paddle as a rudder. So they'll be paddling. And if your front person's pretty strong and I can't really keep up as well, then I can put my paddle down the blade in there, and I'll just use that as a rudder to kind of recorrect the canoe to get it in the right direction. So yeah, usually we think like the brains are in the back, the brawn's in the front, and you should be a good team and be able to move forward. A lot of communication with each other and try and avoid as much swearing as you can. So have a fun summer canoeing, and thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.